Hello, 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 hello. Looks like I'm a little early tonight, and isn't that a good thing, right? So let's go back here and get some things set up. I did some things yesterday a little differently, or set some things up so that it would be a little different today, right? I miss folks putting their information in. Did some things yesterday a little differently, or set some things up so that it would be a little different. So it looks like I got a few more seconds here before I get into live mode. The countdown is happening. It's 8 o'clock, folks. So it looks like I got a few more seconds here. Listen, before I'm going to turn the volume down. And let me just say, I am having a blast. I really am. You guys have been awesome. All the likes, the shares, the comments, the views, it's all been awesome. I'm hearing from people literally across the country. Now, I don't want you to, think that means, pardon me, that, all 50 states, but I'm hearing from folks all across the country. Heard from someone who saw it based on someone else's sharing. Was a lady of faith, and who reached out and invited me to be on her show. So I'm hearing from individuals with all kinds of questions and excitement and enthusiasm about how to get started and take this transition. And by the same token, I'm grateful and I'm touched and I'm blessed. And I can't tell you what an awesome feeling it is to have so many people reach out and thank me for providing the information that I'm providing and affecting the way that they think, as recently as 1 or 2 videos, and really beginning to see and understand how this thing is all coming together. My commitment to you is to do this for until the 15th of this month. I'm sorry, the 16th, because I got started on the 2nd. And I'm going to stick to that commitment. I've talked to my mentors and coaches about this. They love the whole idea that I'm taking this approach. They think that this is the best way to go because we build a rapport, we build a relationship. It gives me an opportunity to show you the real side of who I am. I'm not just a marketer. I'm not just somebody out here pushing some information to try and get you to separate from your money. As a matter of fact, I want you to really take these 15, 16 days to really evaluate this and see if it's something that will work for you. It may work for you and it may not be me, pardon me, that you feel comfortable doing it with. I wish that would be different, but hey, as long as you get help, right? So tonight yesterday I talked about I was going to share my story. And I want you guys to know that it's not one of the things that I do very well. And because it's my story and it, there's some challenging and very personal things in there. I was moved by a sermon that I heard a few weeks ago. A very close friend of mine's dad had passed, and the memorial service was led by a brother from my hometown, Pastor Tillman. I knew this guy growing up, looked up to him. He was a big guy in my eyes, and it delighted my heart to know that he was delivering the word and winning souls for Christ. And his message was so powerful. And I walked out of the church that day saying that I will no longer shy away from telling my story. And for those of you who can appreciate this, not only is it my story, but it's my testimony. He pointed out that there are 2 reasons why you share your testimony. And one of them is because it gives glory to God. And as I sit here and I tell you, as I sit here before you today, were it not for mercy, grace, and the glory of God, I would not be sitting here. I really wouldn't. And for those of you who know me, you know my story. There's a second part to this, and I'll get into that probably in the 8th or 9th day. But the second reason is because it may just help somebody realize that what they're going through is not as big as they thought it was, and that because you made it through, that drawn on their Lord and Savior for strength, that they too can get through it. And when I heard that message, it just, I was convicted. I was convicted because for so long, there are a lot about my story I don't share, except for with people who are very close to me. And so I'm gonna embark on this tonight. Bear with me. They're gonna be, it's recall. It's been a number of years, but it's a critical part about, where I am today and who I've become as a result of it. And so, back in 1996, there was a call for those of us who attended the Million Man March to go back into your community and to give back. At that point in my life, I'd done pretty well, reasonably successful by most accounts in terms of dollars, right? So, I'd been going back and forth to my hometown anyway, wanting to set up some sort of a boxing program and connect with the youth for some deep personal reasons. And I'll go ahead and share. I lost a brother at the age of 10. It was a challenging time between my brother and my dad. And, as a result of my brother kind of, some things went awry. But at any rate, I said I'd like to have a place where young men or boys who have problems with their mother or father or having difficulty can go and kind of have a place to go. And I was 10. I didn't know what that meant. So grateful to my mother, God bless her soul, who supported me in this when I decided in 96 to leave, to semi-retire and move from D.C. to Cambridge, Maryland, my hometown. Big shout out, guys. And she just, her heart was filled, and she supported me every way she could, mostly in prayer, right? And I was there and connected with these young kids, and we started doing activities and riding bikes and fishing, and it gave me an opportunity. Just to let me back up a little bit. I'd done pretty well financially, and one of the things I did, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, was the director of a program for abused and neglected youth, and he asked me to come in and share my story. At that time, it was a different story than what I'm sharing with you now, and connect with the young people. And young people have always been a part of my life, so I welcome the opportunity. Well, it touched my heart so much until I volunteered there and worked there, and it became a part of what I did. And so I said, how about if I do this in my hometown? So I started going back and forth and doing a little research, pulled up a lot of census data, really got a good understanding of some of the challenges of the community. Went home and set up camp, and it took off. Kids will flock anywhere where they're going to get attention, in particular if it's healthy attention. And so we did a number of things, as simple as what I did as a kid, hiking back at this place we call Snake Alley, catching bullfrogs, and catching carpfish, and going fishing, and riding our bikes, and playing in the playground, and had a May Day where we had sack races and all those things. It was a wonderful experience. I financed that experience with $40,000 of my own money, and believed that I could change that community. And while I may have had some impact, as a matter of fact, it's come to my attention over the last few months that I did, because some of these young people have started reconnecting with me. Folks, I went broke. It's a very, very, my hat goes off to those folks who are community advocates, community leaders, social workers, folks who are really pushing and pulling and advocating for young people and trying to create environments where they can be nurtured and encouraged and guided and nurtured into their possibilities. And so, not having all of those skills, I went at it thinking that with some money and with a lot of time and a passion for it, that it would grow legs and become, this thing that I had imagined. Well, it didn't. But there were over 150 kids who kind of followed me around the community, knocked on my doors every morning in the summertime, and who I mentored and tutored after school, along with some very, very dedicated folks who volunteered. This was not a single solitary effort. There were a lot of folks who, churches and social and civic organizations who kicked in where they could. So what happened was we fast forward in this process of 6 years, and my money has run out. Money ran out. And, folks, again, it's really not about how much money you make. It's about what you do with the money you make. And so I was stressed, and I didn't know which way to go, and I really struggled. I felt like a failure. And I, made the decision to pack my bags and come back to the fertile ground of Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, where I'd established my business and had contacts and believed that I could rebuild my life. And so I come back. And in the process, I found myself, I ended up working for the Southern Baptist Christian, Southern Baptist Christian, I worked for the Southern Baptist. I wrote a program for an after-school, I wrote a curriculum for after-school program, or a grant for an after-school program. They got it, so they hired me. They paid me $500 a week. And then I put in for a job at the Library of Congress. I got that job. They paid me $57,000 a year. Now understand something. That had been the least amount of money that I'd made since I was 23. I was now 40. But it was a start. And so I'm thinking, hey, I can go ahead and get myself a place and get myself together. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I got rejected on every turn. The ads in the paper, all these, advertisements saying that they could help you, no credit, don't worry about it. As long as you have a job, there was such a thing as a no-doc loan, and then there was all these different things, right? And they probably worked for some people. They didn't work for me. So it was a very frustrating experience. And I found myself so frustrated because in my life, I made money, and for the most part, I didn't do anything on credit. So I was used to making all purchases basically with cash. And I did have a credit card, got a few credit cards here or there, but I was horrible with that because I didn't know anything about my head. It was just money. And, sometimes I'd pay the bill, sometimes I wouldn't, but I had a credit line. And, you can get into a string where things are going good and you'll just keep getting credit cards. And I kept getting them. And so, I had all this debt following me and what have you. And so I after many unsuccessful attempts at getting finance to buy this home, a friend of mine said to me, she said, Larry, there's a book out by this guy named Robert Kiyosaki. I think you should check it out. So I bought the book, and let me tell you something. The book changed my life. I could not put it down. I think I read the book in about a week and a half. And I turned that book into a manual. I began to apply everything that book indicated, right? And so with that, so a lot of trial, a lot of error, what have you. And so, because the book doesn't give you intimate details, you got to make the mistakes and bump your head. And so what I did was I went home and I was still living in Cambridge. I was commuting. And I was frustrated and I cried out in prayer, pulled over at Graysonville just after you get off the Bay Bridge in Maryland. And the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, for those of you who may be watching from somewhere else. And I pulled over in this little town called Graysonville, and I just cried out and prayed, God, just show me what to do. And I got home and it came to me. Do what you've been trained to do. When you write a business plan, put together your 1, your 3, your 5-year plan. And so part of that was, from what I read, was to write out all your stuff. And, I wrote out all my stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I was blown away. I knew it felt horrible. I knew I didn't have any money in my pockets. But Lord knows, I had no clue that it was $78,000 that I owed, and $10,000 that I owed to my sister, right? And so it was $88,000, and I was blown away. This was the biggest number I'd ever seen related to money in any, because I never bought a home or any major purchase like that. And so I'm like, oh my Lord, what do I do? So now I went into deeper prayer because I'm like blown away. What do I do? And so, went to sleep on it and wrote down all these things. And so, I started looking at ways that I could, how could I deal with these things? I ordered my credit report, and long story short, I negotiated with a lot of my creditors and all those things, and put together a plan, and that plan required me to sell off the things that I own, reduce my cost of living. Now I have a son and a daughter. My daughter was with her mother, my son was with his mother, and I was not custodial. So I was free to kind of move pretty easily. I sold everything, flea markets, eBay, I found a room. I found someone who would let me rent a room. And actually I stayed with a friend for a little bit in his basement, and then I found a room, and so I moved out. And, rooms are kind of, transient or whatever, so things weren't working out real good in that situation. So I found another room and kind of did that for a few months, and that didn't work out. Found another room, and this one worked out pretty good. It was, it was a good situation. So, I'm paying and I get the job at the Library Conference. So now, my bring home is probably about $3,800 to $4,200 a month. I determined that I could live off of $800 with my room cost and my car insurance and gas and food and all those things. And I pretty much paid about $3,000 a month to debt. Now let me share with you mentally the difficulty in what I just said for someone who wasn't really paying their bills. Here's the difficulty. I determined, and it was some sort of, it was real, it's like, yeah, this is the plan, right? But I was like, okay, so I got to pay $3,000 a month, and this is what I was going to do. Folks, let me tell you, $3,000 a month was equivalent. It was more than what I bought my car for, that used car I told you that I got. I paid $2,700 for the car, $2,600, put $700 in the car, and so that's what, $3,300? I'm paying $3,000 a month on debt. And so the number was $88,000. Is it up here anywhere? No. It was $88,000. So let's do the math real quick, right? So you guys can, so I can share with you how I broke it down. And so how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. How do you tackle $88,000 worth of debt? $10 at a time, $100 at a time, whatever the case may be. Please excuse me. Let me take a sip here of this tea. So, if you do the math, right? So I did this in 2.5 years. My plan was actually 3. So $3,000 a month times 12 months is $36,000. Everybody with me? Very good. $36,000 twice is 72, right? So half of 36 is 18, and so if you add 72 and 18, it's $90,000. There's the 2.5 years. And that's how simple it was. The hardest part about that was separating from my $3,000 every month when I was used to finding a whole lot of other things to do with it. Shoes, clothes, entertainment, travel, all those things. That was the hardest piece. And I'm here to tell you that it really took me about 4 to 6 months before I really had bought into this thing and was like, you know what, you're on the right track, and just keep going with this plan. And but before that, I was like, I can't believe it. Will this stuff, will it work? Is it really worth it? What if it's not? Then I'm out all these thousands of dollars that I could have had to do whatever. And so, there were all and I'm doing this alone, so I don't have a coach. I don't have anybody guiding and mentoring me and kind of encouraging me along the way. And so all this stuff was really kind of, other than my prayers with God, you told me to do this, and I'm following pardon me, following your plan. And so, once I get into it, it's like second nature. Then, I get into this thing where I develop a rhythm, and I'm like, as soon as I get paid, I'm going to pay these bills. And I started paying credit cards, right? This because most of this was credit card debt. So I started paying credit cards like the 20th of the month, 25th of the month. And one month, I ended up looking at my statement. The bill was due the 15th of, the month. Well, on the 20th, prior to the coming month when the bill was due, I was making a payment. Because if I had cash in my bank account, to me, it was wasting it. I needed to put it on that debt to kill that interest rate, right? And so, I looked at my statement, and it's one of the things I did routinely. I looked at my statement to make sure no one had, like, identity theft me and started charging stuff. And I looked at my statement to make sure that there was everything on there belonged to me, and it was great to see this thing deducted, like, every month, every month, every month. And so this one particular month, I had this bright idea to just go ahead and pay early, right? And got a statement, and that statement had a penalty on it. The statement had a penalty on it. I was like, what? No, hold up. I called Capital One. I called these credit card companies. I was like, hey, look, what's going on? How do I have a late payment when I pay my bill on time, actually early every month, right? And so the lady looked at my account. Mr. King, let me look at your account. Okay, yeah, I see where you pay. You know what happened, Mr. King? No, please tell me. What happened? She said, well, what happened was you paid your next month payment. You paid it within the billing cycle of the previous month. And so you have to make the payment after the 25th in order for it to be credited to the next month's payment. I was like, wow, okay. I was like, okay. So what do you say? I can't pay like on the 20th or the 22nd or whatever day my payday fell on, right? And she said, no. She said, because what'll happen is it'll just get applied in that month that you'd already made the payment in. I'm like, okay, great. I said, so can you reverse these $25 charges? She's like, sure, we can do that. You're a good customer, da-da-da. Okay, so she reversed them. Valuable lesson. Let me tell you why it's valuable. Because I get to help you not make that same mistake, right? Because here's what's going to happen. Once you get into this groove and you start seeing those bills, that money that you owe melt away, you then get excited and you can't sleep at night. You can't wait for payday to come. And as soon as payday comes, because you have a plan, you can't wait to click that mouse or write the check and pay everybody you owe. It's a great feeling. It really is, right? And so, I go through this process. I don't even think about it anymore. No, I've shut down my life for the most part. I hate to say, I shut down everything. I stopped dating. I went to matinees. If I went to the movie, I started reading more about money. Those were the books that I chose to read, right? About money. And I started going to free things like museums. Every now and then I might hang out with a family member or a friend at the paddle boats or something that was nominal, right? It had to fit in my $800 because this $3,000 was my gig. This is what I was doing. And so before you know it, I get to, it's 2.5 years. It's somewhere in March, the month of March, and I'll never forget, I clicked the mouse and I paid my last payment. And I did some things with my 401k. I did some things with my, with my pay. And I did a whole bunch of modifying of things because I took every available dollar and I put on debt. Okay? Because let me share something with you. Once this thing got rolling and I began to understand the magnitude of the power of this thing, right? It was compounded interest, pardon me, and payment in reverse, right? Because I wasn't making money by investing or whatever, but I was eliminating interest that was compounding or accruing monthly on balances. I was shattering the balance, the principal, and so the interest was almost, I had cards that were like 24, 26%, high interest rate, right? But it didn't matter because I was paying, $50, $100, $200 over the minimum payment. And so now what happened is I'm obliterating. I'm sorry, what am I, the debt destroyer, right? I was destroying debt. And this stuff was just, it was melting away. And then I hooked up with this company, and it's interesting because I had so many different approaches, been approached by many different companies before about credit repair and all these different things. I was jaded. I'd gotten taken so badly by these guys who I trusted to help me get out of debt and to be able to buy this house until I was close to everything. But something happened somewhere along in my approaching my second year of this. Something said it would be smart to rebuild your credit simultaneously, right? And so I enrolled with this company, and they helped me begin to, do these letters, these dispute letters, and, stuff started falling off. Now here's the other thing I did. I got letters from all my creditors, saying that I, settled the debt or what have you. And I kept these letters. And it's funny, one of the letters, and I don't know if this electric company still operates on the Eastern Shore, but one of them was from a company called Connective. This is an electric company. I know you guys deal with Shop Tank Electric, which is a cooperative, and some folks are BG&E. But this company, Connective, was the one. And I remember it because that it was showing up on my credit report. And I knew I had paid it off, and I'd lost the letter. And I called them, and they were so kind. Oh, sure, Mr. King, we'll get you another copy out. And I was like, wow, okay. Everybody's not the enemy. Everybody's not adversarial. People really enjoy helping people. And so even though I was, ashamed because I had been, bad debt and hadn't paid the people, and yeah, I paid them off, but I was like, I don't really want them to, but they were so happy, so nice. So I got this letter, and it was important in helping me get this apartment because it was showing up on my credit report, right? So anyway, get everything paid off. So now I'm working on getting this stuff off of my credit report. And it takes about 10 months. But by that time, I kind of simultaneously, I make the last payment. My credit report is kind of looking good. I got 33 derivatives. That's 11 on each one of those three we talked about last night. Any of you guys remember the three? All right? You can text, one of the three or three of them if you like. There's no contest involved, but go ahead and text them if you remember what they are, right? Those three credit credit agencies, reporting agencies, right? And so my net worth at that time was $2,412. It was the amount of money I had in a 401k that I kind of suspended because I was using it to pay off debt. And so I remember because I had hooked up with this insurance agent who was trying to sell me insurance. And they did a whole profile on net worth and this, that, and the other. And so I remember that number. Folks, from March of 2000, I think it was 2004, to a year and a half later, I had bought several properties. I had refinanced several properties. I utilized, some of the different programs that they had because they were giving away money back then. And so, I ended up a year and a half later with a net worth of just under $750,000, and I was cash flowing about $12,000 a month. Now, let me back up a second. So I get to March, and I'm accustomed to now for a year and a half, no real frivolous spending, not a whole lot of, extracurricular activities. And so my mindset was hey, just go along and, I do something with this because I don't And so, the thing is, I have to remember my thought because I can't ask you guys where was I. And so, so what happens is, let me try and think back about where I was. So here's the deal. I got all the way to the end, And I'm in this frame of mind where I'm not spending any money, not doing anything. And so April comes around. Now I'm debt free in March, right? 2004. April comes around and $3,000 ends up in my account. So I move it over to my savings account and I'm cool with that. The next month comes around and now it's $6,000. I'm like, wow, okay. Not really thinking about it, right? Because I'm in this frame of mind. Next month comes around and it's $9,000, right? And I'm going, wow, that's a pretty nice. It got there so quick. The next month comes and it's $12,000. I'm going, wow, look at this. Pardon me. And so I was like, okay, I got to start buying some assets. Well, there are all these real estate programs and stuff going on, so I got involved in a couple of them, and pardon me, started learning how to do this stuff, buy houses, flip houses, this, that, and the third, and some of them are scams, some of them, they make money off of you, don't really give you a whole lot of knowledge, and they sell you some stuff, and you can't really do anything with it, but until you buy the bigger package and the bigger package and the bigger package. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about upselling. Because just like in my program, you'll start out here, but you're going to benefit here before we go to here, right? It's like going through, elementary school, 1 through 5, you benefit, right? And then you move on, that prepares you for 6 through 8, right? And then that prepares you for 9 through 12. And then that prepares you for undergrad and then graduate, so on and so forth. So it's okay when, there's a succession and progression in your movement. But before you can make a dime or see any benefit from your investment, you getting hit for another, whatever amount, not cool. Not cool. So anyway, I end up buying a property. Now, let me stop for a second. So what I do with my clients, here's what I do with my clients. Because you too are going to get this mindset, you're going to have this shift, and it's going to be all about reducing expenditures and paying off debt. And there's something magical that happens, and I believe that this is they call it law of attraction, God, the universe, however you want to call it. God will provide or put more in your path in the direction that you're moving, right? So money's going to start to come. Opportunities are going to start to show up. They're going to be things, if somebody owed you money from 5 years ago, something's going to happen. They're going to just pay you that money. It's going to come from places that unforeseen places, right? Opportunities. So what did I do when those things happen? I just put it on top of that. Right? So one of the things that I will do with my clients is this. Because each of you will get to a point where you will progress past the basics, the fundamentals, and then you move into something a little bit more, advanced and progressive. And in that phase, you're going to have a debt date. You're going to have a debt-free date. That's right. We can predict, right? We can predict plus or minus 1 to 2 months when you're going to be debt-free. And so now what I do is 6 months before you get to that date, here's what you're going to get from me. We're going to start talking about living in abundance. We're going to shift our mindset from being frugal for the sake of saving money to pay on debt to saving money to buy investments, and to then be able to take the money that you make from those investments and buy more investments, and then getting to a point where you now are doubling and tripling your investment and you're getting more money. And so now it's okay to go buy what? The new car. Didn't come from your paycheck from your job. Follow what I'm saying? Is that making sense? Text, I got it. Hashtag, I got it if you got it. If it's making sense, text the word or hashtag, I got it. Hashtag, it makes sense. Folks, I'm getting excited all over again. So let me sit back, calm down, take a sip of tea. Got my throat. Yeah. All right. So it's important because mindset drives behavior. Behavior drives habit. Habit becomes your way of life. Now, folks, you're doing this without consciously being aware. Thus, you're driving your life in despair. Thus, you're driving your life in lack. Thus, you're driving your life in missed opportunities. That's what we're doing. And so it's important to make that shift. And so you have the benefit of me walking alongside of you every step of the way, right? Helping you, encouraging, reinforcing those things that you've learned but are not really sure about your footing. It's okay. It's okay, right? And so, folks, I'll show you guys in a video. And please text me or remind me in these comments that I'm saying I'm going to do this, because I'll forget. There's so many things swirling in my head. I'm operating a business during the day. I'm excited and thinking about this all day as well. There's things I need to do, and I might miss it, right? But I'm going to share with you how I bought a car, right? And from the purchase of the car, I paid for the car, the house. I think I might have said that to you the other day. I think so. Scratch that. If I shared it already, anyway. So here's what I'm going to do. It's 35 minutes. I'm going to take the next few minutes to kind of break this thing down for you, right? And so, again, if this has been a blessing to you and for you, I'm going to ask that you pay it forward. Pay it forward. You might bless somebody, right? So the first thing we want to do is what? Write down all your bills. Folks, if you want to utilize my services when I finally put the offer out there, great. If you don't, take this stuff, all the videos, do what you can do with it, and go for it. If you feel like, you know me too well, or you don't know me well enough, or you know my sister, or you know my nephew or my cousin, that's too close, and you don't want, no problem. I won't be offended one bit. But let me share something with you. I am a licensed insurance agent, and as a result of that, that license is governed by the Insurance Commission of the state of Maryland and all the other states that I am licensed in, and there's such a thing as HIPAA. And folks, I enjoy what my licenses do for me. Your business is your business, and to the extent that I become a part of your business, it's our business. So much so that I have to be careful when I deal with husbands and wives. Okay? And yeah. So it's an awkward position to be put in, but I'm very clear about it. Right? I'm very clear about it. And we have that discussion up front. So, you can't get in my ear and, yeah, I'm governed by HIPAA. And I respect it because it's a license, it's a designation that affords me to do the things that I do within the law and to help people, and I will not do anything to jeopardize that. So here we go. You want to write down all your bills, right? Remember I talked about going home and writing that stuff out and being blown away. The other reason why I do this with such excitement, and I want you to hear this, is because to date there have only been 2 couples that I've dealt with who have had greater debt than I, and they were millionaires. That's right, folks. I've been fortunate enough to work inside of the money of folks who earn $1 million or more a year, and their debt superseded my little 88. It made my 88,000 look little, but they're only 2 out of more than 100. And what I'll say to you is, in most cases, right, I sit back after I get your information and you pour out your heart about, student loans and, different, credit cards, and this is behind, and, you had a life crisis, and you're not really a bad person. You're trying to convince me all this stuff. Folks, I already know. I can't sit in judgment. When I just shared my story with you. I was a deadbeat. I was a guy who did not pay his bills. Took care of my kids, but I didn't pay my bills. It's like, they're a big corporation. They don't need my money. I'm going to buy this. If you said that before, guess what? We're all in the same crowd. I don't say it anymore because I understand how easy it is in this capitalistic system that we work in to have any and everything you want if you're willing to do the work and make the sacrifices to do so. And so write out all your bills, right? And the next thing you want to do is you want to develop your why. Your why is the reason why you're going to embark on this and be steadfast and be committed to this thing. And I don't know, it might be your kids. It might be the fact that you don't want to leave them the legacy of the debt and despair and the darkness and the depression that you've lived through as a result of not being able to make your ends meet, even though you got all this money coming through your household. right? And I'm going to share something with you. Kids, we all know if you got them, they pay very little attention to what we tell them. Whether you know it or not, they don't miss a beat when it comes to doing what you do. And so when we talk about generational curses and strongholds, when the word talks about that, I used to think it was some hocus pocus, some, waving of wands and some dust. Nah, it's just, it's habit. They're watching you. They're watching you. They're watching you. Okay? So your why. Now, let me tell you why developing a why is imperative. It is one of the most important things you will do. Just second in the order, but it goes right at the top. The reason why it is so important that you do this, and I can't stress it enough, right? The reason why it's so important is because what I didn't share with you in my story was I was renting, remember that room I told you I had to transition. I found a room that worked out. Well, that guy came to me and said, hey, man, my daughter's coming to town. She just graduated from such and such a school. She's got a teaching position. I need you to move out. Be honest with you, I don't want you here with my daughter. What can I say? So I had a week. And in that week, I found a place. But it wasn't available until the first of the month. There was 3 weeks to go. So now, I could have broke from my plan because after all, I'm spending $3,000 on debt. I could have broke from my plan and got an apartment for $6,000, $7,000, $1,000, whatever the case may be. But I would have delayed my debt-free date by probably another 8 to 12 months. I wasn't willing to do that because my why was so big. I was so committed, and I didn't do this intentionally. I don't want you to think I'm going to go do this. I drove around because I tapped my friends and stayed with this one and stayed with that. I was too embarrassed. I'm just be honest. To go back knocking on those doors and say, hey, look, the guy that, was doing so well at one time is now, back in the jam, and can I get you a couch in your basement again? I didn't want to do that. And so because I didn't, I just drove and prayed. And finally it was about 1:30 in the morning, and I happened to be up around downtown DC, K Street, and I know my bank, 1627 K Street, It had 3 parking spots in the back of the bank for customers. And at 1:30 in the morning, I pulled in the alley and I went back there and there were no cars there. And so, I was tired, I'm frustrated, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I pull in and I recline the seat and that's where I sleep, right? I wake up periodically. There's some folks over here, there's some folks over there. Folks, I'm hanging out with the folks who, making it the best way they could. I was fortunate I had a car. And so 1 day turned into 2 days turned into 5 days turned into 3 weeks, right? And so I wear that as a badge, because they say the measure of the payoff is the measure of it is the willingness, or the measure of the sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice to have it the way you want it? What are you willing to sacrifice? And what at the core is gonna hold you steadfast? Your why. Your why is gonna hold you to the point that you will not waver. People will say things about you. People might, whatever. Your why is the reason. It's gonna hold you steadfast, and you're gonna have to figure out what that is. Okay, I went across the street every morning at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, to the Burger King. Had 2 stores. If any of you guys know DC, 1627, across the street, there was a Burger King. There's a building that's there now. It's not a Burger King, and it has the 2 floors. Because I was ashamed, I went upstairs, and I put on my little business attire and came downstairs and ordered my food and rolled out and went to work. Now, I could do that because it wasn't like the bank hadn't opened yet, so that parking space wasn't in violation, and I wasn't going to get a fine. So I'd make my way to the Library of Congress where I worked. Your why is very important. Let me tell you, the other thing that's important is prayer, because you're going to need to draw on some strength. You're going to need to draw on some strength in order to maintain and to see this thing through. Look, I couldn't have done it without the grace of God. I could not have done it with him, with his anointing on those characteristics, the determination and the focus and the steadfastness. I couldn't have done it. And then you got to develop a plan. And that's where, someone like me comes in. Help you strategically do this. The next thing is you got to execute that plan, because a plan is like knowledge. It's good to have it, but if you don't implement it, it won't benefit you. So we got to then execute that plan, right? And so from the execution, you begin to realize and see the benefits in your life. Folks, I'm approaching 45 minutes, and I want to kind of keep these things short. I wanted to pour out to you and share with you that, I probably could sit in my ivory castle and, have this very astute look and, I'm a real everyday guy. These experiences have shaped my life and have forever changed me. And I'm here to tell you that these are some of the exact same things that you're going to go through. Every woman out there who's been a parent or who's given birth to a child can tell you month from what it was when you first took the test and you saw that you were pregnant. The joy, and then some of the, anxiety because am I going to be a good parent? Can I do this? And I'm not speaking from experience. I just have heard a few stories. And so I'm trying to use make a metaphor here, right? But they're going to be able to tell you the first month, the second month, what happens in that first trimester. How many times you should, routinely see your doctor to get checked and make sure what you should eat, what things you should abstain from, right? And then you move into the second trimester. And all that, someone can tell you that, right? They can tell you every step of the way. And as best as I could, I've tried to outline for you in this story, in my testimony, what this process was. Folks, I am unwavering when it comes to making frivolous purchases. Now, I have a system that I operate in my money. It's called a 70-20-10. We could talk about that later. But the 20% is all mine, and some months is bigger than others. But I don't ever always spend it all unless I may be taking a vacation out of it. But let me tell you something. Majority of my money, I'm putting into my future. I'm investing into my future. All right? I'm investing to the place where I no longer, when I decide I don't want to work anymore, I can still live a pretty comfortable life. You too can do that. You can do that. But to the extent that whatever your encumbrance is, whatever your debt amount is, there's a way out of it. If you can't figure it out on your own, it's okay. Find somebody to help you do so. Okay? And hopefully over the next 10, 12, 13 days, you might find enough confidence in what I've shared and who I am and what my experience, what my story and my experiences are, that you will, trust me to be your coach and walk you every step of the way through this thing. And so, everyday wealth system, there's life after debt. Folks, I'm here to tell you, there's life after debt. I can take if you got a predictable income, I can move your life from ordinary to extraordinary. Never taking a vacation or vacationing on a Friday and a long weekend and taking a Monday or a Friday, so you got 3 days, to taking a week and buying souvenirs and sending them to people while you're away and enjoying all the stuff that go on, parasailing, the beautiful spa treatments and dinners and all the stuff that go with going on vacation. How about that, right? And so here's the formula. The goal is, look, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to do something with that tomorrow. It's been up here all day, and I'm not going to push this thing. What I want to push to you is this. Be a blessing to somebody. Share this thing. Be a blessing, all right? Because whether you realize it or not, the folks that you're sharing it with could very well be a part of your circle of 7 and your accountability team. You're going to need to have some folks who, you're moving in lockstep with some commonalities, because after a while, you guys will start finding certain things to do together to reduce the cost and still have the fun. And more importantly, your kids who are paying attention to everything you do are absorbing all these lessons, right? And you're the best thing you can do for them is give them the experience of how to not get into that situation, right? And so anyway, they say I'm a believer. Anthony Robbins says every crisis is an opportunity to learn and grow, right? Every crisis you got here, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? You didn't get here overnight. Can't expect to get out overnight. My program is not quick fix and get rich quick. No, you're gonna have to do some work. We're gonna have to work on your mindset. We're gonna have to break some old habits. We're gonna have to repeat some things over and over again. And when you hire me as a coach, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna be there for your benefit based on what you are hiring me to help you do. Now, when you say uncle and you don't want to be coached by me no more, just uncle, you released, done. But as long as you say I want you to help to guide me to this destination that you define, I'm gonna be right there, prodding you and pushing you and encouraging you, and even in some cases, kind of backing you up and having a real heart-to-heart with you about your commitment, your why. I'm gonna focus you back on that, okay? And folks, we don't ever want to leave this piece out. They say 7 days without prayer makes 1 week. Y'all got that, right? There you go. Okay? So, look, it's been a great night. I've gone over about 5 minutes. I wanted to do this for 45 minutes. Thanks again. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here with me. I'm eternally grateful. I give all the glory to God. Thank you again. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll develop a topic, and I'll make sure that you guys get it. Share, like, comment, share. Thanks for all of you who are doing that. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to share with you tomorrow through a little piece that I do about what this is and how the challenge came about. And so, look, folks, have a good night. If you have some restlessness, charge it to my head, not to my heart. It's going to happen. And we're going to get to the point where we can implement and execute. But until then, just keep showing up. And I hope you're blessed. And hopefully you'll bless someone else. And I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, talking to you tomorrow. Have a good night. God bless.